Hello, my name is Stephen Rhodes, and today I'm going to try to answer the question of can we save the Earth? Um, and even more in that question that goes along with climate change as well. So, first, I'd kind of like to take a look at the problem. What is the problem that we currently face? So, the problem is globally we emit about 36 billion tons of CO2 per year. And this is connectively all of the countries on the globe, planet Earth. Um, so what happens is we have an ozone layer around the Earth, and when we emit these CO2 emissions, they start to eat away at the ozone layer, and the ozone layer kind of protects the Earth from the sun from becoming too hot. So when we have a thin ozone layer, then the sun is able to penetrate more heat on the Earth. And when it has more heat on the Earth, the problem comes with our glaciers at our north and our south pole. When these glaciers start to melt, we find the problem that our sea or our ocean levels rise. And over decades, we can look back and see that islands and smaller lands have been taken over by water due to the earth heating up and these glaciers slowly melting. So the question is, where are we headed? Well, the emissions actually speed up the process of climate change and the rising water levels. So kind of how do we tackle this problem? And looking into the National Geographic magazine, we find two standpoints, an optimistic and a pessimistic standpoint. And I'd kind of like to look a little bit more into both of those standpoints. First is our pessimistic standpoint. People that just don't think climate change is reality, or they don't think it really has an effect on Earth. They don't look long term, or they don't see a problem occurring. So with that, we have people that think of how little of an effect that it has, or that the United States would have by reducing our emissions. People like to take into imagination or think about if the United States reduced their emissions. And when they think about that and they look into the numbers, it wouldn't help as much. It would help, but it wouldn't be as big of an effect. We need kind of everybody in on the same boat on this this journey of climate change to be able to slow down the tearing away of our ozone layer. So look into that aspect, and some people just in the United States, they just don't think that the United States would have that big of an effect, so they don't worry about it. They don't have a concern about it. Well, it's still a concerning issue, especially with rising water levels taking over large amounts of land. Another pessimistic viewpoint is that legislation is doomed to fail. Even within the United States, if we're looking, we can find that we have two parties and two parties that are look totally different on this issue. A party that would support it and a party that most likely would not support the issue. So passing legislation makes it hard. You get it to our Senate and you have a House divided, and the bill doesn't always go into legislation. And again, we have another pessimistic viewpoint of the United States looking towards other countries. We see that the United States specifically, some senators and some politicians that say, well, India or China won't reduce their emissions, so why should we reduce ours? Kind of a negative standpoint there for our politicians and our leaders that should be leading change. And finally, nobody's worried really about the climate change sometimes in a capitalistic society. We're looking more towards creating money, creating revenues, making our economy well. Little do they know that eventually, if climate change really rose the water levels, it would have an effect on a lot of the economy, a huge part, and a lot of sectors as well. So those are a couple of the pessimistic viewpoints. Now we'll look at a couple optimistic viewpoints. If we look into that, we see that kind of a one step at a time. Changing somebody's mindset is really the name of the game. And what can we do specifically? We'll take a look at that here in a second. But another thing is leaders lead by example. So if the United States wants to step out and have other countries follow or create a domino effect, then they'll start doing certain steps and taking certain steps that would be able to lead to a reduction of carbon emissions. And overall, just it's a change over time. It's a slow process, but we're looking down the road. We're looking at decades ahead to be able to sustain a better future for the next generations, and have sustainable land for them, not have land that slowly decreasing over time. So, what are some steps that we can take as a globe, as an Earth, and more specifically as the United States? Well, again, small steps is what we're looking towards, especially with this climate change. It's something that people are looking at in the near decades to happen. So we need to kind of react fast and change people's mindsets. So the first thing is we want to inform people about the crisis. How can we get this out there? How can we have this in somebody's mind and inform them what's going on, what's going to happen down the road. Kind of need to create a sense of urgency about it. The mindset change as well. It's a huge thing for just the United States alone. We have a lot of people that aren't worried about this topic right now. So to be able to go in and maybe have celebrities or businesses take commercials about climate change and about where we're headed would be a good first step. It would be changing the mindset. It would be informing people, and then kind of getting people on board, getting them on board and getting them excited to take these small steps to kind of help our Earth down the road. And another step here is being a leader among nations. If we start being a leader, if we step up and show people, again, hopefully we have that domino effect. Other countries will take action as well. If they see us worrying about the issue, hopefully they will start worrying about it as well. And finally, with that changed mindset, with people actually concerned about that, then hopefully in the United States we can have legislation that backs climate change, that reduces emissions, and all of this towards eventually building up a stronger ozone and not tearing it down. That way, we don't have melting glaciers and we don't have a problem of decreasing land in the future. So all of this taken into consideration, one step at a time, kind of small steps, and hopefully we can get there down the road. It would be a very good step for planet Earth.